Nigel Farage has made millions. A 5 million shekel donation from a personal gift via a crypto billionaire landed in his hands in 2024, just as he was deciding whether to return to frontline politics. On top of that, he sits on hundreds of thousands more from shilling gold bullion promotions, media contracts, and other side deals that have turned him into one of the highest earning MPs in the country. At the same time, his party, Reform UK, is tangled in serious questions about where large donations really came from, including money linked to a convicted fraudster and transfers that raised enough concern for the banks to file reports with the National Crime Agency. Now, Farage has already resigned his parliamentary seat once this summer to force a by-election, framing it as a battle between the people and the establishment. People will not think it's a big deal in receiving donors, but it affects a party's reputation and real questioning the leader's ulterior motives. The question is no longer whether we can win headlines or dominate the airwaves, it is whether he is preparing to cash out and walk away just like he did with UKIP, or leaving another populist vehicle to weaken and collapse behind him while he keeps the personal rewards. You've probably heard this broken record before. Mr. Big Shot walks in and he starts to talk about taking on the establishment or the corrupt regime. He dominates the conversation, and when it's convenient to him, when the hard part actually arrives, sustained organisation, internal discipline, actual responsibility, and accountability under scrutiny, he then all of a sudden steps back. He keeps the media contracts, the personal gifts, and the brand value. The party is left weaker, more chaotic, and less able to convert protest energy into lasting power. That is the UKIP story after 2016. The same pattern is visible again with Reform. The donations are under investigation, the personal enrichment is on public record, and Farage's recent resignation from Clacton, timed amid intensifying questions about his finances, looks more like damage control and an exit ramp than a long-term commitment to building something that survives him. This is not about one bad news cycle. It is about repeated habit of populism that prefers the spotlight and the cash flow to the unglamorous grind of creating durable political force that's not just focused on one person. In April 2024, shortly before he changed his mind and decided to stand in the general election, Nigel Farage has received a $5 million personal gift from Christopher Harbone, a Thailand-based cryptocurrency billionaire who also has been one of Reform UK's largest and most consistent donors. Farage has insisted the money was unconditional personal gift. He has said on air that he can spend it on Ferraris if he wants, or put it on the horses, and that it is nobody else's business. Parliamentary standards investigators have been examining whether the gift should have been declared under the rules that apply to the new MPs. The timing alone raises obvious questions. A multi-million pound payment arriving just as Farage was weighing a return to electoral politics. Someone like Elon Musk, who is trying to also get involved with UK politics, and especially Reform UK, he can't try and dump his crypto or money since it would be against electoral rules, since Musk is not a UK citizen. Alongside sits another, more tangled set of financial relationships. George Cottrell, a long-time Farage associate who was convicted of wire fraud in the United States and spent time in prison, has been linked to substantial support for Farage's operation and for the party. Reporting has shown transfers of more than $2 million from Cottrell to his mother, Fjodor Cottrell, arriving shortly before she made large donations to both directly to Reform and to Britain Means Business, a fundraising vehicle controlled by Richard Tice. Police have been investigating possible offences around the source and proper recording of these donations. Bank staff raised multiple suspicious activity reports with the National Crime Agency over transactions involving senior Reform figures. The picture that emerges is not one of transparency, grassroots funding. It is a web of personal gifts, intermediary companies, family transfers, and large sums whose origins and purpose have required formal investigation. This is the financial backdrop against which Farage has been operating while presenting himself as the anti-establishment outsider. Farage has done this before. He took over UKIP, turned it into a serious electoral force that won European elections and forced the political establishment to grant a referendum on EU membership, and then, once the referendum was won, resigned as a leader in July 2016. He has said he had done his bit and that he wanted his life back. He had already resigned or attempted to resign on early occasions. After the 2009 European elections to focus on the Westminster seat, and again after failing to win South Tenner in 2015, only to persuade to stay, each time the party was left weaker. After his final departure in 2016, UKIP descended into leadership chaos, internal warfare, and evidential irrelevancy as a serious electoral force. The energy he had channeled did not translate into a lasting organisation capable of operating without him. The pattern is consistent across decades. Farage is highly effective at capturing public frustration, dominating media cycles, and turning protest into personal and political capital. He is far less interested in the unglamorous, long-term work of building institutions, enforcing internal discipline, developing policy depth, or staying to govern when the spotlight moves on. When scrutiny intensifies or the next stage requires sustained effort rather than campaigning, the exit becomes attractive. The personal rewards, media contracts, speaking fees, large gifts, brand value remain with him. The political vehicle is to the left manage the consequences, infighting, and the decline. What happens to UKIP after 2016 is not ancient history. It is the clearest available guide to what happens when the same individual is allowed to treat a party as a personal platform rather than a collective project. Reform was sold to voters as the answer to a broken system, a vehicle that would finally take immigration, cultural change, and elite failure seriously. Yet the same structural holes keep appearing. The party remains heavily reliant on a single personality. Its funding has involved lazy roots and donors whose connections have triggered formal investigations. Its leadership has shown itself more comfortable in opposition, on camera, and in campaign mode than in the daily accountability that comes with sustained political responsibility. Farage's own outside earnings as an MP underline the point. Declarations show he has taken in substantial sums from gold bullion promotions, including £270,000 for an estimated 12 hours of work, alongside payments from GB News and other sources, adding up to millions on top of his parliamentary salary. Meanwhile, the party faces ongoing questions about the true source of major donations and the role of intermediaries. This is the laziness at the heart of modern populism. It correctly identifies real problems that main parties have ignored or made worse. It then offers a figurehead, a brand, and a series of high-energy campaigns rather than a slower, hard work of building a serious, disciplined organisation capable of surviving its founder. When the pressure rises, financial scrutiny, media investigation, and the demands of actual power, the figurehead's first instinct is to protect his personal position and his wealth. The supporters who believe they were building something lasting are left holding a weakened vehicle. Farage's resignation from Clacton seat in July 2026, timed amid intensifying questions about his £5 million gift and the cultural-linked donations, fits this establishment pattern more closely than it breaks it. It allows him to seek a fresh personal mandate while the deeper questions about money and commitment remain unresolved. A political movement that cannot survive the departure, discretion, or self-protection of the man who built was never meant to last. The money is documented, the questions about the donors are the subject of police and paramilitary scrutiny. The history of walking away after the main prize or the main pressure is a matter of public record. None of this is conspiracy. it is a pattern recognition. So anyway guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video about me talking about Nigel Farage's dodgy turnouts. And obviously, as I'm recording this video, there has now been a release of the two Tory factions. There has been a proposed merger by Rupert Lowe, whose fault is firmly in his court, and now he wants to negotiate with Nigel Farage of doing a merger between Reform UK and Restore Britain. And this will cause massive calamity between the ethnic nationalists that have dogpiled Restore, because Reform will not allow them to join, and also to do with the cranks and also other factors. And I just want to say and give my thoughts on what this merger actually means, or this proposed one. I'll actually read out this post by Two-Tier Truth, as he actually does highlight a lot of the things about this merger. Yesterday, you posted a polished video offering an olive branch to Nigel Farage. Put personalities and past disagreements aside, you said, "Unite the hopefully divided and patriotic right. Find common ground to stop the left-wing alliance that threatens what's left of the country." You listed 5 non-negotiable conditions of reverse mass immigration, with mass deportations, demographic security, a referendum on the death penalty, major welfare and spending cuts for self-sufficiency, and a ban on former Conservative cabinet ministers serving in any future government. It was public, dramatic, and attempted to position you as a bigger man, willingly to prioritise the country over personal history. Farage has now stated that he contacted you after the video, and obviously us recording this video, he has actually responded and kind of hashing it out. He reached out, he has had no reply. You made a public invitation, he responded privately, the silence is now yours. For months, the right has watched 2 camps complete and the fracture the very voters both claim to represent. You left Reform amid bitter claims and counterclaims. You founded Restore Britain. Farage has built the larger electoral machine and insists the only party currently has a real path to delivering change, of which in my opinion it won't. While saying he will not abandon his team, you insist genuine cooperation requires those 5 principles. Fair enough, but after a public call for unity and a private contact that has gone unanswered, the optics have shifted. Continue silence, and the offer starts to look more like a platform building exercise than a genuine attempt to talk. Reply, and the conversation can at least begin on substance rather than theatre. The country does not need another round of mutual destruction on the right. Borders, crime, economic decline, and cultural confidence are not abstract talking points for most people watching this. If there is a real common ground beyond the personal history, this is the moment to test it. If the conditions are absolute and non-negotiable with no room for discussion, say so clearly. You issued the invitation, Farage has made contact, the next move is yours. What will you say now, Ru? So, just to go over a couple of things of what happened with Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage. And I think people don't really understand that the whole point of Restore was to head off Reform, and both of them have done poorly electorally. Now, if you compare some other parties like the Conservative and the further right, including those people within those circles and the centre-right, which, as an ethnic nationalist, I will probably not be joining. But for the sake of the argument, especially to do with electoral success, I think that when it comes down to them merging, will probably not happen. See, this is quite an ironic thing, because what happened with Ben Habib, where he wanted to propose a merger with Rupert Lowe, saw him as a non-entity, and then eventually just didn't do that and it evaporated. The same thing is probably going to happen with Restore. See, if Restore does this, or Rupert Lowe will reach out to Nigel Farage, Farage will probably ignore him. Whether that's out of ego, or the fact that Restore is basically probably eventually going to collapse in on itself, which it will, because of lack of serious policy planning, and also to do with the fact that it's just going off by vibes, similarly, and also to do with the fact that their policies are not really that different from Reform's, is basically just a carbon copy paste, except the Afternaps have joined it, like Steve Laws and Zoomer's starring, or been in support. Whether they're paid, I don't know. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that this clearly just looks like a complete and utter mess on the right. Afternaps are arguing, and now this proposed merger, which again, they're not in a position to actually make any demands, which again is just completely embarrassing. You see people even dogpile and even rip on them, especially with all the claims that Farage and Rupert Lowe have made, when they're just basically just Tory factor-right boomers. And when you see this fractured right, whether this merger happens or not, I don't really care. But if that is the case, then people like Steve Laws and Superstar will probably leave, or they probably won't be allowed to join Tory, or whatever the hell this is going to end up playing out. I could make more speculations, but I think that'll spag out too much about this. But we'll probably see what happens if they actually manage to hash it out. And there are other theories, and this was noted by Unity News Network, where he basically said, or in that interview with that ex-Rustari HQ owner, I can't remember her name specifically, I'll probably bring her up, that Rupert wants to revive the Tory system, be crowned as king of the Tories, and then basically have a political party that'll eventually go nowhere and not enact the policies he's written out. And I think that's what will happen, especially this was predicted back in this year, around July, especially when this was discussed with Reece Talking and other people about what's going to happen between the future of Restart and Reform. And as well, if you want to go link in the description with links to my other channels and Discord as well.